This topic is called the 7 pains that keep organizations awake at night. And I'd like you to go out a little bit out of the mindset we were talking about a little bit before, because this came for the sake of capacity building. In my company, we offer lots of training. And in many cases, companies come to us and they ask for training for the people. And the number one reason why companies ask for training, can you guess what it is? They have money and they need to spend it before the end of the year. Okay? Now to me, this is good business. But if I want to talk about the things of benefit, realization, and value, really embrace it and believe in it, then we started to think, no, let's not spend or waste the money by just offering any training because we have money. Let's talk about capacity building. Let's talk about a concept which we call training for a purpose. Training for a purpose. So if we're talking about training for a purpose, let's start with the challenges that we have, or the pains we have in our companies. And we selected 7 very much common pains, and then we said, how can we put this in a framework to help companies actually address these pains and build their capacity in a manner that helps them do whatever they do in a better manner. This is the whole objective. So we're going to talk about 3 aspects. The Welsh approach. I'm sorry because I have a little bit of a flu. Welsh, you know Jack Welch, one of the most famous guys in the world, the previous CEO of GE. Then we're going to talk about these 7 pains. We're going to talk about each one of them. Then we are going to speak how we integrate all within a framework. To me, I'm an organizational or institutionalizational guy. So I love frameworks. I love to help companies rather than help only the individual or the project itself. So to start with, Jack Welch, in one of his very famous quotes, he considered himself like a gardener. And as a gardener, he said his 750 top people, his main job was to nurture these people, was to facilitate, help them, provide everything they need and let them fly. And when they fly, the top people, what do they do to the company? It flies with them. Everything goes up. And also he said, I had to pull out some weeds too. We're going to speak about this. So his model actually, what he does is the top 20%, the top performance, they call them A employees. And these A employees, what he does is he strengthens these A employees, give them everything, nurtures them, and this helps the company. But then there is the 70%, which is the B performer, everybody else. The normal human beings that work in companies day in and day out, okay? And we need to work on these too. We need to enhance their skills. And there's also the bottom 10% performance. He calls them the C performance. So there is a competitive advantage to address talent at A, B, and C from the perspective of Jack. And before we start about what Jack said, let's take some perspective. One of the very important things that lots of CEOs talked about, lack of leadership. Okay? Lack of leadership at all levels. This is one of the most important things and very much needed. Now, I'm not going to lecture today about leadership, but I like a very nice quote which says, the difference between a leader and a manager. A manager tells you what to do. A leader makes you want to do what he wants you to do. So it's a totally different perspective. Maybe we have more in ourselves of managers than leaders, maybe the other way around, but we need both. So PMI have been going out lately from just talking about initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and closing, and talking more about communicating, leading, managing, effectiveness, and so on. So they're talking about these specific skills that gets you to get more out of people. Once a guy gave a definition about the project management, and he said this is like the art of getting a deliverable out of less than the needed resources. Nobody ever offers you all the resources you need. I need 10 engineers with 10 years experience. They give you 5. One of them has 5 years and the other 2 years experience. And you have to finish the job. You can't say no, okay? So to do that, people should follow you. People should not say, it's time to go. I have something else. They only do it if they believe this is something for themselves, and this requires leadership. So they talked a lot about the triple triangle, which is technical, everything we've been talking about before, time, cost, scope, quality, etc. They consider this only 1/3 technical, and they talked a lot about leadership and about the strategic or business acumen. To learn why you have this project, what is the purpose of the project, how this project serves the company or the organization, which is also very important. How it is linked to the vision, mission of the company. So, back to Jack Welch. What not to do to your top 20%, okay? So he says they look for someone of wisdom of 50 years, experience of 40 years, drive of 30, and pay scale of 20. Okay, this is what not to do to your top people, because if you do this to them, what do they go? They go and work for the competitor. Then, with these leaders, leaders, you have to give them authority. Okay, you have to delegate certain authority. Not everything in the company should be managed by, all decisions by one person. I know a company, they are my friends and we work together. There are 5,000 employees in 10 or 12 countries in the Middle East and Africa. And they work in the engineering aspect. If somebody needs to upgrade his ticket from economy to business, because we don't find a seat in the business, in the economy, to get this engineer from one place to the other, and we need to get him in the morning to see a client, it can only happen by the signature of who? The CEO. You see? What does this tell you? There's very little leadership, very little delegation. Lots of titles, but no real authority. So this is something we need to work on. And of course, we need to develop leaders at all levels. Leaders are not only the top management, okay? You can't be a leader even if you don't have a very fancy title, if people love you, if they respect you. You know, one aspect of leadership I learned, and it gets people to follow you, is something you can do for your own, which is called what? Knowledge. If you have more knowledge, if you have more certifications, if you can do things, if you can answer intelligent, smart questions, you become an expert. And an expert is one of the highest levels of power. And this gets you to become a leader. People that want your services, and if they want their services, they listen to you. Okay? Then you have influence, and you become much more than a manager or a mere technical person. And this is something you can do for your own. Nobody can deny you to do this. So, what do you do to the top 20%? You cuddle them, okay? Or her. And go to the 70%. 70%. Those who work well, if you leave them alone. We don't want to leave them alone. You know, the power is in the group, okay? Power is in the group. 10 people working individually are not like 10 people working as a team. 10 people working as a team might get you the results of 20, 30, maybe even 100, okay? So, how do we motivate the mass, the 70%, okay? Maybe a little bit more flexibility, okay? There is one way to do it right and one way to do it wrong. I know this guy, he is my friend, and he opened his company and he said, I'm going to be the leader, I'm going to be flexible, so I allow people not to put the attendance, use it. I allow them to do whatever they like, and it's chaos. And nobody does anything, okay? Proper leadership does not mean put aside everything we learn as of good management. No, it is on top of that with small ingredients that people can tolerate, okay? If you put too much sugar, you cannot drink the tea or the coffee. Just enough to make it taste good. So, higher rewards, better war-like balance. Now the C challenges, the people like this guy, I know nothing about the subject, but I'm happy to give you my expert opinion. Okay, we have lots of these everywhere in all the companies we work around. Okay, many of them have poor communication skills. Probably his degree is not from a really accredited school. No culture of team playing and no initiation of any kind. Now, with respect to Jack Welch, what does he do to these people? Okay, he does. He tells them, why did you leave your last job? They relocated and did not tell me where. Okay, so strategy of Jack Welch, get rid of these. Okay, and I always remember one or more guys that used to work for me when I see this guy. Okay, I think many managers should put this printed and put it in front of them. So, of course, when you start to cut the weed, sometimes you have to act with wisdom. Sometimes I know somebody is not healthy for the team, but I cannot just remove him or her immediately. Maybe it takes me 2 years to find a replacement, so that it does not cause us too much problems or suffering. So, the proposition for A, we aggressively invest in these people. And on B, we are going to work with them on the 7 problems. We are going to identify the 7 common pains, and we will help these B people with the aid of A on solving these 7 pains. The C, we don't have them anywhere. We relocated and did not give them the new address of the company. So the first one, we talked about leadership and team management, okay? We need everybody to be on the same page. And usually, in many cases, whenever there are problems or issues, people are not on the same page. Everybody, this is thinking about Einstein formula, the other guy, this girl is in Hawaii and is drilling somewhere for oil, and she wants to speak and knows nobody to correspond. So we need the skill, we need leadership and team management to get these people to this place. Then, of course, simplicity helps a lot. And it's not easy. Like Steve Jobs, he said, simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thing clean to make it simple. I remember Henry Ford once, he had a meeting. And he said, they told me about the meeting only 2 days. I did not have enough time for the 2-page executive summary. I only was able to prepare the 30-page report, okay? Because the 2-page executive summary needs a lot more work than the 13 pages. To simplify and be straight to the point, sometimes it takes years. It's a lot of experience there. Then the second one, the inability to deliver. And who can tell me what can we do? Teach project management. Project management is about what? People who are capable to deliver. I know lots of companies, and some of them have 800 or thousands of employees. Each time they win a new project or contract or job or new investment or internal critical or strategic project, they suffer. We need somebody capable to deliver. Why in the world are you hiring, paying salaries for thousands of people if you can't identify one of these thousands to deliver? What do? They outsource. But they can outsource only for the project which is critical and expensive. There is enough money to pay for somebody from outside. And what about the several hundred poor projects that do not have enough experience? We let the people who don't know how to manage projects to manage them. And what happens? They don't deliver. And how can we address this? Go and learn project management. That's it. Okay? This is why we have PMI for that. This is why we are meeting all the time and collaborating with PMI. Then, conflicts every day. You know this? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. It's about stakeholder management. I learned this lesson way when I was young in the university. I had this debate with my friend about a subject. I honestly do not remember what the subject is. And we were talking about it for days, and I gave him proofs and I don't know what from books and from quotes, and he does not agree with me. Then we were walking and we met this scholar, maybe he was a professor or somebody, and I told him in the campus, and I told him, I want to ask you a question. He said, what? I said, blah, blah, blah. Then this guy, scholar, he said, in my opinion, did not say, I have these proofs and blah, blah, blah. He said, in my opinion, the answer is X. Which is exactly what I was talking about. Then my friend, he said, I'm convinced. I thought, I'm going to kill you. I've been talking to you, I'm giving you all these proofs. And then somebody says, in my opinion, it is the same, and you believe him? He said, yes, he's the expert, he knows better. You see? So actually, managing these conflicts that occur all the time, this is very important. One of the researchers, we're talking about Schema Business School, and Professor Rodney Turner was the International Journal of Project Management editor. And one of the late researchers, they found out that the number one success factor for projects is not a happy client. It's not finishing on time. It's not finishing on budget. It's not quality. Guess what it is? A happy team. Because if the team is happy, okay, if they believe in the project, if the project manager is their leader, they will do whatever it takes for the client to be happy and for the shareholders to be happy, and the project will succeed. This came out of research, and this requires what? Stakeholder management. This is, you know, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. This is a book. If you don't read it, go and read it. This is very, very important. If you know yourself, not the enemy, each victory gained, you will also suffer. Then, risk management. You know the ostrich? Okay? Somebody told me this is fake. This is not true. The ostrich does not put her head under the ground if she senses danger. But I said, okay, let's go for it, because this is very much famous. So, I know many companies, you speak about something, and they are planning, setting their strategy, they are happy about it. I tell them, but listen, there is a risk of ABC. No, don't talk about this now. Why are you negative? Okay, addressing the risks does not mean we are negative. It's either we accept the risks and we are able to mitigate them and live with them, and the project is feasible and we go for the project, or if they are too much for us, let's do something else. This is better decision making. And yet many companies decide what to do, to just bury their heads under the sand rather than actually address the risk. But of course this is very stupid to put the wall here. Then, vague scope. How many times, and specifically IT, I worked for engineering and construction over 10 years, but originally I'm a computer and communication engineer, so I know both worlds very well. The IT, the computer engineering science, and the infrastructure programs and projects, oil and gas and whatever. And every time a project fails, if you dig, something is missing in the original scope of work. In IT, I've seen it lots of times. You go at the end and to deliver the system or software or application, and the client says, or the user, but this is not what I asked for. So many times we face this. I used to have like 15 years or 20 years ago a small company, and we used to do software. That was before I got my PMP. And one time, I went to a client and he wanted us to build an application for him, which is an index for business. And he wants to sell the service of the data. So we started to work on it, and we collected the requirements. I had a team of 3 or 4, and I had a business analyst, and had a senior database developer, and 2 programmers, and whatever. So when we started to put the requirements, they were like half a page. And I looked at it, I was afraid. If you start with half a page, you can go to a zillion directions. Okay? It's like you want to shoot a rocket to the moon, but you don't know if the moon is here or there. Let's shoot it and we'll see if it reaches there sometime. So I went back to the client with a different strategy. And I told him, I'm not here today to talk about what we will do. I want to talk about what we will not do. And I had I did lots of research about this type of projects. And I told him, we will not include this. No, this is important. We will not include that. This is very, very critical. And then suddenly, the list of half a page became several pages. And the project which should have cost $20,000 now should cost $120,000. And the client said, all what I'm going to pay is $20,000. So we said, I'm sorry. If we continue, we're going to become enemies. Let's stop now. He said, but I want this. And how about you tighten a little bit your threshold and choose only what you must have, not what is nice to have. And he started to take off things, and then we agreed. And this was one of the very few projects which I succeeded in. By trial and error, I did proper WBS and proper collection of requirement. Then later on, I learned this is the best practice. You should do it not only once, you should do it every time on all types of projects. And PMI, they have the new PBA, okay, which came after the IIBA had their CBAP for years. Now we have the business analysis. Then following transformational change. Before, we're not talking here about project change management or integrated change control, where you change the scope or time or cost inside the project. We're talking about changes within organizations. And in the Middle East, we're seeing lots and lots, like in Saudi and in Emirates and Qatar and some places, transformational changes. They are radically changing the way ministries operate from A to Z. And this is very hard. Why? Again, when I was younger, some wise guy told me, Saadi, if you want to make an enemy, change something. So if you change things, many people will be scared, will be afraid. What happens to us? What happens to our work, to our lifestyle, to our safety zone? Okay? And this is not something easy. In many cases, this is a huge, challenging program to change organizations. Then there is the thing of, which is, you know, this joke. She tells him, I have good news, I have bad news. Good news, operation succeeded. Bad news, patient died. Versus, I have good news and great news. Operation succeeded and the patient is alive. And perhaps this is the difference, not 100% academically accurate, between projects and programs. Projects provide deliverables. Whatever you do with them, it's up to you. But when we talk about program management, we're talking about benefits. If you don't achieve the benefit, you can change the scope of work. You can ask for more fund. Whereas in a project, budget, cost, scope is set before we start. In a program, these things might change according where the North Star is, which is what? The benefit we wish to realize within this specific program. And in programs, we talk about benefits and sustainability of benefits and benefit realization. If you look at Mark Langley, you know Mark Langley, CEO and Chairman of PMI, He's been publishing lots of articles on LinkedIn and the PMI website talking about them, and all his speeches everywhere, which is about benefit realization and its importance for organizations. And for that, we need to learn a new skill. How many program management professionals we have in Turkey?
3 or 4.
3?
4, 3.
Around 3. I think this is a skill you need much more. Specifically in Ankara, you have lots of defense industry, and it's about programs much more than it is about projects. Okay, you do a research for a new type of weapon. This is a program. It's not merely a project, for example. So you need program management. So going back to our guy, okay, Jacques Welch, he says rate of change outside the organization exceeds rate of change inside. The end is near. The only question is when. Which means in this fast-changing world, we have to always adapt ourselves. No more room for old bureaucratic companies. We have to be agile. We have to always work on it. So, how can we resolve these 7 pains in a sustainable manner using an organizational capacity building program? How can we select the people? How can we identify whom we are going to teach what? So to do that, we used a simple framework which is utilized by UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and the USAID. They use these 5 steps. You identify and engage the stakeholders. You assess the existing capabilities and needs. You build the building transformational office. Now this step, if you want to make a big transformation. But if you want to make it for your own company without transformation, you can skip this. And whomever manages the PMO or top management can manage this capacity building. You implement it, then you evaluate, and then you use the Deming cycle, PDCA, plan, do, check, act, all the time, to do the next wave, and so on. By doing this, you don't pay the money for training for companies like my own just because you have money. You pay them for the purposes that serve your own organization. And then you assess, did you achieve these or not? And if you don't achieve, something is not yet optimized. Maybe we did not identify the right thing. Maybe not the right people. Maybe not the right pain, but not the right solution. Okay? So you need to think this over. So of course we identify stakeholders, it's very important. And we assess the existing capabilities. Now, assessing the existing capabilities is not easy. Usually it takes time if you're going to do it on a large scale. How do we assess? If we are going to assess capabilities of project management, we might rely on PMI for a project manager. But so far, they don't have competency model for program, not for portfolio. They don't have for planning, for estimation, for procurement, for quality. All these are challenges. We need yet to address these challenges and identify them. But the company does not include only these topics. We look at the world sometimes from a narrow angle because we are project managers. They have all types of people, okay? Technical people, service people, engagement people, and so on, contract managers. Then, this is about transformational office. I'm not gonna go there because tomorrow I'm going to speak for those who will attend tomorrow's session about the PMO, Project Management Office. So my whole session will be about how to set up this Project Management Office, which can be utilized for capacity building or other things. Then we implement this capacity building, and hopefully, when you implement it, you don't find anymore like this guy, okay? The nice smile. And we have lots of these people, okay? They know how to stick to people with power, with their smile, with their Versace suits or Boss suits or whatever suits they have, maybe cigars, and they reach high places and they know how to do nothing. Then we evaluate